is listening to the deepest stirrings of our souls and how that can bring us into lives of greater fulfillment. So before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together and vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, and the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning. Good morning, Rosalind. So good to have you here with us this morning, and welcome to everybody else who's joining us. Today, we're talking about listening. And so many of us seek guidance, right? We wish we had guides. We wish we could communicate with them so that we would have guidance in our lives. And the truth is that whether we recognize our guidance as external or not, we all have the capacity to listen. And the listening that we can connect to is the listening for our soul's whispers. We talk about this a lot, but I think it's becoming more and more important that whether those whispers, whether that guidance is coming from angels or coming from saints or coming from something that we're identifying as external, or something that is really the speaking of our higher selves or God or whatever you want to call it, if we listen and we connect and we respond to what we hear. And it's not just a hearing. I'm talking about listening with your heart, listening with your soul, finding the alignment, the resonant truth that comes from this kind of listening, where maybe it's our future selves calling us into our greater sense of being. If we can connect and listen, then we are drawn to a path of fulfillment that opens life into whole new potentials, whole new expressions, a whole new frequency of being when we're being called. So one of the big challenges about this guidance thing or this listening thing is sometimes it says stuff we don't like, or sometimes it calls us into directions that we're deeply intimidated by, or that that it doesn't fit the picture that we want. So it takes courage. it takes courage to pay attention and to listen and to follow that guidance, so it's not like, oh no, I didn't want that guidance. I didn't want that guidance. I wanted you to tell me something else. um it's very interesting, that kind of phenomena that we as humans are subject to. Please, please, please tell me what to do. No, 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 I don't want to do that. you know so a dear friend is engaged in a writing project, and there was a scene where um these people had gone to a seer, and they're asking for a reading of the future. And the reading that they're getting for the future isn't what they want to hear. It's not saying everybody's going to be saved and life is going to turn out happily ever after. And they're like, I don't need any more of this. I don't want to listen to more of this. And that's how we are. That's how we are. We ask for guidance, we ask for direction, and then when it shows up, we're like, maybe not. And so the thing about listening is, the more we listen, the more we have the courage to follow that guidance, the more fulfillment we find in our own lives, because that guidance typically is calling us into a greater expression of the being we came here to be. And a friend of mine spoke it so eloquently by saying, I'm in service to Mother Life. And this is the same thing that we've spoken of when we speak of, when I've spoken about this identity that I've been exploring, is who I am is life expressing itself through me, through this unique vessel. And that then is living in service to life, living in service to those whispers that in our unique expression, we are serving life. We are fulfilling I want to say the sacred calling that we came here to fulfill, in service to life. So this conversation about listening comes from this friend's, her name is Nina Simon. She wrote a book called, it's got a longer title, but the tagline is "A Woman Listens for Leadership." And we were talking about leadership, and this is going to be an upcoming podcast that Sustainability Now is releasing. So I was reviewing it yesterday, and she has had the unique opportunity to speak to more than 1,000 leaders in her career with pioneers. And it's over the years, she's had a unique opportunity to speak to a multitude of leaders. And the thing that emerged from her inquiry and our conversation is that the paradigm of leadership needs to shift. And this is something we talk about all the time, that rather than being followers, rather than following someone who righteously knows, is leading the way and taking us down the path to victory kind of thing, that that true leadership is, rather than it being something ego-based, or I don't know how to make this distinction exactly, but instead of being this one leader leading or dictating how things are to be, that that leadership is instead being in service to a purpose that is not one's own. So being in service to mother life, so to speak. And that it doesn't look like leading the charge. It often looks like being arm in arm. And that leadership, I think, used to be associated, or service used to be associated with sacrifice. And one of the distinctions that Nina made, which was so beautiful, is that the service that we do is service that serves us as well, that is fulfilling our heart song. And that's what we're talking about here, is being in service to our unique expression, and that in its way is leadership. That as we listen more closely and have the courage to step into our calling, we have to be able to hear the calling. We need to listen for the calling, and then to be able to step into our calling is a service that gives back to us. It's not selfless service. It's self-expressive service, and it's its own reward. It's not suffering. It's not martyrdom. It's not self-sacrifice. It's self-expression. And that's such a big distinction, that as we listen and really give ourselves the grace to follow that call, that life becomes a very different experience. Life is then happening for us and through us rather than to us. And the resistance and the friction and the fighting against life is transformed, and all that energy that was spent toward resistance and wanting things to be different then moves into a sense of flow with life, a greater sense of ease, even in the challenges that life presents. We're given a greater and deeper sense of flow. And that's also when magic happens, that we get into a different frequency of being and of expression, because all the energy that we had spent trying to force ourselves to do things, trying to dominate and control ourselves, we're giving over to this magnificent flow of life. And life will call us. And nobody knows this better than Ruth Anderson, who is the magnificent founder of Enlightened World Network. This woman has such incredible courage to listen. And Enlightened World Network is a result of her following her guidance And she receives guidance from archangels and other kinds of spirits, but she has the courage to listen to this guidance, and not but she has the courage to follow that guidance, and it has led to this massive contribution to so many people who listen to and are engaged with this network. And there's a lot of courage on her side to follow her calling. I don't know that she would say that it's courage, because she's a very humble woman, but I recognize it as courage to just follow those callings, to listen, to pay attention, to act upon what she's called to do. And the result, the contribution that has come from that is just remarkable. Remarkable. And it's not driven by her drive or desire, her personal will, other than to be in service to the calling. And so there's so much fulfillment and grace available to us when we listen. And I like the notion of those voices being our future selves, our fullest selves, calling us into fuller expression, into the greater capabilities, greater capacities that we have available to us. And when we allow ourselves to step beyond the fear of those expressions, when we allow ourselves to step beyond the limiting definitions that we have of ourselves and our abilities and who we are, and step into that service or that calling, we find ourselves evolving way beyond any capacity that we had previously imagined. And our lives, at the same time that our lives become not our own and that they're in service, our lives become even more fully an expression of ourselves. So I don't know if it really is a paradox. It kind of sounds like it is, but I don't know that that's really true, because the ideas that we have of who we are typically are limiters rather than something that expands us. Typically, the ideas of who we are keep us much, much smaller than we have the capability of being. I just thought, if you're writing comments and I'm not responding, it's because I don't see the comments. So if you're here and you're wanting to interact, please go to the Facebook page for Enlightened World Network. It seems that those are the only comments that I see, or the comments. Sometimes I'm able to see the comments from the Enlightened World Network YouTube channel as well. So anyway, we don't have to have guidance that shows up in the form of angels or other spirits. If we listen closely, and I mean really listening with our heart, feeling into the deepest desires that we have, and then take action in acknowledgement of those we could even say those deep desires, those inklings, those inclinations. When we follow them, we get more of that guidance. And it's like our higher self saying, hey, I'm glad you're listening. Now that you're listening, how about this? How about that? And more opens up to us. If we don't listen, then that voice goes quiet, and it just whispers more subtly until we're ready to pay attention. And so this is all about alignment with our deeper selves, alignment with our deepest purpose. And I operate under the working hypothesis that we each came here for a unique purpose. And it could be just to glory in the magnificence of nature. It could be to meditate in a cave. It could be to have a wonderful family, or it could be to struggle through challenges and be able to share that triumph. So Rosalind says the idea that the sage self is wanting you to express more fully, listening to self, setting aside belief allows the triggers to be lessened, allowing self to explore those depths opens up more possibilities. In that space, I can watch those thoughts. What questions can we ask in that space? Watching the truths, I'm thinking, is what you meant. And when you're ready, asking if those thoughts are true. Oh, watching the drifts, maybe. Anyway, beautiful, Rosalind. Thank you for that. It's true that if we can imagine that it is our future selves, our higher selves speaking to us, that we can maybe set aside our limitations to reach into that potential. And Ava Sparks, oh my gosh, how wonderful to see you here joining us. Thank you. I have so much love for you, my friend. It's been too long. Oh, there, thank you. Rosalind says, watching the thoughts. And when you're ready, asking if those thoughts are true. And when we assess, when we ask ourselves if these thoughts are true, it may not be true for anybody else. You know, this may be our own deep truth. This may be a truth that we want to be able to look through the lens of our heart and soul. And so, is that truth resonant for me? Is that truth in alignment with my essence? And that's really what we're looking for or that's what we're listening for. We're listening for that alignment. And clearly, we're talking about not a listening that is through our ears, but a listening through our heart, a listening through our body, a listening for that alignment that is so resonant that we know it to be a truth, to be our truth, not a fleeting notion or limited to an idea, but something that is permeating our being and our cells and our soul. So listening, that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network and Enlightened World Living. And as always, it is such a tremendous pleasure and privilege to be able to spend these moments together and explore and discover together. So until next